chances are, if you were born in the 1970s or 80s, there's one company that made a major impact in your life with the products they made. Their reach would have been inescapable, and you probably owned at least one thing they manufactured. If you're born in the 50s and 60s, that's also probably true. And if you were born in 1932, you would have witnessed the birth of this company. We're talking about the Connecticut Leather Company, of course. But if that sounds a bit strange, that's okay. The company rebranded a couple decades after its incorporation, calling itself Coleco. Sound more familiar now? With me today is an expert on all things Coleco, and quite fittingly, the author of the only official book on Coleco history, Antoine Clerc-Renaud. If you're already excited, head to colecobook.com and order your copy. Antoine, good to have you with us.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me, Rob.
No problem. You and I already have a little bit of a fabled history, a tale and an adventure. But for everybody else that doesn't quite know who you are yet, why don't you fill them in?
So, as you said, my name is Antoine. So, I'm a video game historian. Been doing that for 3 years now. Doing also retro gaming here in Montreal, Canada. And so far, and recently I just released my very first book called Coleco, the official book. And it was very, very cool to work on this project. And so this is who I am.
So how long would you say that you've been a video game historian? And when you say historian, I think it's fair to say that being a writer is the main outlet of your muse, wouldn't you say?
Exactly, yeah. So I've been a video game historian for me, like almost forever, because I've always been interested by the video game history so video games for a very long time, so more than 25 years. I think it's 25 years today because I've gotten my very first game in 1991. So it was Tetris on the Game Boy, so at the Christmas, so something that a lot of children out there got, and so this is where it all started for me. And with this starting point, I've always been interested to know how the games were made, who were the people making them, and so I started diving a little bit in this one. And for really the history of video games, I got 3 books published in French. So I was part of a team working on the book on the very first PlayStation. And as we reviewed all the games on the PlayStation library, it was like more than 4,000 games. So we couldn't just put that all in one book, so we just separated it in 3 books, and this was my very, very first big project. And after that, I launched my book publishing company. The Coleco project was my activity for the last year, and I'm very glad to say that the book will be shipping very soon, and probably when you will hear that, the book will already have shipped. So it's very, very exciting.
That's awesome. So here's kind of what I would call maybe a curveball question. What would you say inspires a person like you to become a writer? I think a lot of us listening were exposed to gaming around the same time. I think by 1991, a lot of people had accepted gaming as mainstream, where that might not have been the case in the 70s. But why did you turn to writing? I mean, I'm a documentary filmmaker first and foremost, and that's the avenue and the medium I choose to explore video games. And of course, there's writing involved, but you really stick, to the pen and paper medium. What is it about that form that really appeals to you, and how does that inspire you?
So I've been in the blog sphere also for quite a long time. In 2013, with a friend of mine, we launched a website here in Canada called retrogamer.ca, and so it was something about retro gaming already. And we had a really big part on the news, on the retro gaming news. So what was happening in the retro gaming sphere, and during that time, I was able to write around between 1 and sometimes 5 articles a day. I have the words. I have the words on the tips of my fingers, so it's very easy.
Now, I know a lot of writers sometimes really require some seclusion. There's a lot of famous stories about screenwriters especially in the Hollywood heyday, having to lock themselves in hotel rooms for weeks on end until the script was done, or even people that like traveling to different places to bring their writing a different flair or a different kind of energy. And like I said, having made a few documentaries with travel being a huge component, I feel that when I'm shooting in different places, the segments feel a little different. What scenario did you write the Coleco book under? Was it in your home office? Did you do any traveling? How do you prescribe to environment informs content idea?
So the book was mainly written in my home. So as you can hear, I'm not a native English speaker. So writing the book in English was for me a very good exercise as well. So because the website I was telling you about earlier was in French, so the books I released also before were in French. So I had I had to be extra focused for this project, for the Coleco book project, because it was in English, because it was a Kickstarter project at the beginning. So I promised the English version first.
Right.
So something I needed to be was really focused on my English, and something I really like when I work anywhere I am is silence. So maybe not like complete silence.
No, I understand.
Like just the ambient noises, but not like for example people working outside as it is the case right now, or.
You see, for me, I'm split. It's either got to be complete silence, or it's got to be constant hustle and bustle, so that it turns into white noise.
Okay. Oh yes, no. For me, white noise, I'm not capable of doing that. I really like to have like something really calm, really quiet.
So let me ask you the $1 million question, my friend.
Yes.
Of all the books that you could write, of all your storied history, especially since you really got into gaming with Game Boy 1991, Tetris is probably the first game you played at that point. Why, why did you decide to write a book on Coleco? I think it's really fascinating.
For me, it's really...
And I should clarify for everybody that's listening, this isn't just ColecoVision, although of course that is one of the chief Coleco products out there. This is a book on the entire history of Coleco, like I said in the intro, dating back to 1932. So why would you do, I guess, a book on Coleco, and why wouldn't you maybe focus just on the ColecoVision? So lead me into that.
Yeah, sure, my pleasure. So when I was a kid, I was reading a lot, and then I stopped because I started playing video games, so especially Japanese RPGs. So I needed to focus on that, and this is what I wanted to do. And then there is a company in France called Pixel Love that launched in 2007, and it was a company. It was a book publishing company, publishing books on video game history, and it was for me the very first time I was exposed to that. And so I got back into reading, and they were doing books on the history of Nintendo, some biographies on some famous game designers like Gunpei Yokoi or Michel Ancel, so the designer of Rayman. And so I really got interested even more in video game history, and then I discovered so many other books on different other companies, so like Chris Wilkins' History of Ocean or History of US Gold, that are two famous English publishers. And so I started when I started my company, I started researching so what has been done, what has not been done, because we have books on Atari, we have books on Nintendo for sure, there's one on Sega as well, but nothing on Coleco. So and for me it was very surprising. So I wanted to to right a wrong,
Sure, I get that. What was the most surprising fact that you discovered while researching?
So for me, the most surprising fact I learned was when I discovered that Coleco was big in Montreal, but really big. So like they had 3 factories and 4 at some point. And while they were in Montreal, they even this was their 4th factory, but they kept it for only 2 years, and because they went into the snowmobile business. So the skidoo devices. So it was and for me it was something incredible. So because as I just said earlier, we know Coleco for the ColecoVision, but and yeah, I go in details in the book. So they went into the skidoo business, they went into the swimming pool business, and it's completely crazy.
Your book is in two parts. One that really breaks down the history of the company, and a second part that features interview with some of the key people that were involved in Coleco and worked there. What was it like interviewing some of these people?
It was amazing. Really, it was something really great, and I really wanted to have this part in the book because for me, so I already wrote some books on video game history, and I already wrote like many articles on the subject. But for me, there was no better people to tell the story of the company than the people who actually work there. So yeah,
Were you nervous? Were you like a bit of a fanboy calling them up? So
Really.
walk me through that. Who was the first person that you talked to that you interviewed, and what was going through your mind?
So the very first person I interviewed sadly didn't make it into the book. It was Michael Katz, so the VP for marketing at Coleco.
Okay.
So and it's more of a technical issue. So this is why it didn't make it in the book, because I think we spoke for half an hour, so it wasn't really long enough for me to put in the book.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I was very nervous, but because so in ColecoVision the games, so it was the very first console to bring the arcade quality graphics at home. So it's something that we all feel that when we play the game. So yeah, I was very nervous to talk to some of those pioneers,
Yeah.
And so most of the people I interviewed for the book, and this is also the focus I put in the book, is during the video game years of Coleco, because this is when they became famous around the world. This is when they got the recognition they deserved also for all of their products.
Well, I want to talk about Janelle specifically because
Sure.
This is somebody that I'm going to actually be talking to very soon for one of my documentaries on video game box art. And, here's a woman who I think it's safe to call a pioneer.
Oh, yeah.
And had a major hand in developing the ColecoVision. I wouldn't, I'm not going to say that she's the inventor, but I think she was in a position in the company that really dictated the flow, the overall feel, and the execution of not only the ColecoVision, but the module ports and a lot of the games.
Yeah, exactly.
And she went on to illustrate for TSR, who created D&D, and she worked at id Software on Doom and Quake titles.
She has an amazing career.
She's a bit of a landmark that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm going to kind of get you to do a little bit of research for me, and I'm going to say, so what was it like to talk to Janelle?
Yeah,
because like I said, I'm going to be talking to her very soon myself.
So she's amazing. She's an amazing person. She has an extremely interesting career. She's one of the few actually at Coleco who stayed in the video game industry, because a lot of them. So just to give a quick overview without spoiling too much of the book. So Coleco's went out of the electronics business, so not only the video games but also everything electronics, in 1985. And they laid off 75% of their video game workforce. So what was called the R&D, so Advanced Research and Development team, and most of them they just started working where they could. So because it was just done like this, it was no notice, no nothing. So it was just a big sad surprise. And some of them stayed in the video game industry, but really a few, and generally is part of them. And yeah, I didn't know I didn't know what to expect from this interview, and she gave me so many details, and I'm really saddened still now. It's really heartbreaking, because so I think I spoke more than 2 hours with her, and I think I have only so for me only 10 pages for her interview in the book, and my first edit for the interview was, I think it was 30 pages, but only for her interview, and I think it was like it was too much for the reader to digest, so I really cut a lot of so I really kept the essential information, the vital one.
Sure. Well, I got to tell you, man, having read the book, I hope that if we get around to a second printing or a revised edition with whatever Coleco might be doing in the next coming years, I'll be the first to say, put those other 20 pages back in, man.
Yeah, I really will. I really will, because this is something I was like. Every time I was erasing something from the interview, I was like, oh, no, one more, no.
One thing that makes your book a little extra cool is that you get the right to call it, the official history of Coleco, Coleco, the official book.
Mm-hmm.
How the heck did you get permission to use official in conjunction with your book? Like, I did a documentary on Nintendo, and my lawyer said I had to say most unofficial, most unauthorized Nintendo documentary. Here's the flip side of the coin. You get to call this an official Coleco book. Walk me through that entire story.
When we started working on the book with JF, he told me that he knew the people who still owned the right to the Coleco brand, and so of course the very first thing I asked him was, but what the hell? They went under in 1989. So how come that the brand still exists? So this is when I learned that there are some companies, and this is something you can do for some brands that are dormant or dead. You can actually buy the rights for them and revive them. And this is what a company called River West Brands did in the early 2000. So I got in touch with Chris Cardillo, who is who is part of the River West brand, and maybe the most talkative and the most active Coleco advocate as well. And so we managed to figure out a deal, and yeah, I got the rights to call the Coleco the official book. Coleco: The Complete History was the very first title of the book, and when I got the rights to call it the official book, so yeah, I changed it directly overnight, maybe.
I think the Coleco story is really interesting, and maybe this is being too dramatic, but I also think it's a really important story, and I don't want to give anything away that's in your book, of course, but what would you say the theme or the lesson learned or the lesson observed might be, having gone through all the decades of ups and downs that this company faced? What if you were an aspiring business person? And I think you are, because you have this book out there and you're pushing it. Mm-hmm. What's the one lesson that you've learned by studying a business and a company like Coleco?
Learn and know when to pivot. So there are a lot of companies out there that just focus on something, and maybe this is not the best way they could sell the product, or maybe the product is not the best one out there, and so this is what Coleco did several times. They just pivoted. So they started doing leather, then they pivoted to do.
Well, don't spoil it for everyone. Don't spoil it.
Okay. So they really pivoted, and in a really smart way, several times. And this is, I think, why they were around for almost 60 years. So this is the main thing, and the other thing I want to mention so in a business perspective is collaboration. So they did a lot of collaboration, and this is why they were around and why they were here in the video game industry for so long, and why they were almost among the first person to do video game in form of console. So yeah, just not to give away anything, but just to say this, like, collaboration was a key for them, as it's supposed to be a key for all business people out there.
Now, this was obviously a Kickstarter campaign, and so many of us, me included, use crowdfunding as one of those essential key steps of the creation process. What did you learn going through Kickstarter, and what advice would you give other people that might want to crowdfund something?
All right, so yeah, I learned a lot because this is a campaign I really started. At the beginning, I didn't want to do it because
Smart man.
I have. It's because I had a misconception about Kickstarter. Also, I was afraid of the pressure I could have from the backers. Not sure if I'm really clear with that.
No, I understand, and believe me, having done 4 or 5 different campaigns, the second I put text down and people pick rewards, I feel very indebted to them.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't take that trust lightly that they're pre-ordering something and putting their faith in me to give it to them. So I understand.
Yeah, and for me it was like something I was afraid of was to not to be able to deliver and not to be able to this is still something I didn't have from the backers, their feedback on the book, because they obviously didn't receive them yet. So I'm still a little bit afraid, but now less, because some people already gave me positive feedback, so I'm really glad for that. But I'm still a little bit afraid that I'm not able to deliver what they expect from me.
Well, I mean, here's the thing about that, right? You'll never please everybody.
Yeah, of course.
And as a guy who's put, a few films out there now, it's you got to realize that some people like pineapple on their pizza and some people don't.
Okay.
That's
a great analogy.
A lot of people love pizza. I think most people like some form of pizza, but not everybody likes pineapple, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You still like pizza, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, but as you said, they all put their trust in me, and so yeah, I had to deliver. So now I delivered, but will I be like up to their expectations? So will it be up to their expectation? I hope so.
I was a backer, and I backed the electronic version because I was going through a bit of a tough time with work. And we met at the Game On Expo in Arizona, and I was able to get a physical copy, and I'm really glad I did. And I'm not disappointed.
Thank you.
Mind you, that said, I really didn't know too much about Coleco or have any interest learning about Coleco, and maybe that sounds really obtuse and ignorant as a guy who does make documentaries on video games. It's just there was nothing that interested me until I saw the cover of your book, and I saw stuff like Sectars, and I think there's a picture of Elf and Cabbage Patch Kids. And then over the course of 2.5 days, you essentially were nonstop pitching me your entire book, or I heard variations on your pitches to other people, and I had to read the book. I just had to. And now that I've read it once and I've gone back through and made a few notes, I'm probably going to... I definitely want to pick up some Sectar figures. I can tell you that much. I definitely want to pick up some Sectars.
Nice.
I know a local store has the Hive playset in town, in box and everything. And I'll probably... I might start with a Coleco flashback, or maybe I'll just jump into a Coleco vision for if anything, Rescue at Gargamel's Castle. So...
All right. So the Smurf game,
yeah. Speaking of meeting you at Game On Expo in Arizona, I'm really a sucker for meeting authors and filmmakers and game developers in person. Do you tour frequently or promote the book? Is there anything coming up that people should know about where they might be able to meet you in person and get a nice signed copy of the Coleco, the official book?
So right now, the next event will be Retro World Expo in Connecticut, in Wallingford, October 15th and 16th.
Okay.
So I will be over there. So during this weekend, I will have a talk about Coleco history.
Nice.
Because also Coleco is from Connecticut, so I'm really glad.
Are you gonna go to the old factories?
I hope so. I will see if I'm.
You got to do that, man. You got to go
course.
to the old factories. I think they're in Hartford, according to the book. So you got to make the trek and take some pictures in front of that, if for anything, just to put on your Facebook page, and then you can put ones beside you in front of Montreal, ones beside you in front of Hartford. I think that'd be real cool.
Yeah.
October 15th and 16th, Retro World in Connecticut. If anybody listening's in the area, and I think you're also working on an event the weekend after, more or less, at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
Yes,
which
it's
is
still,
pretty cool.
yeah, exactly. I'm still working on that to go to Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and I think it will be there, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there, and you may be bringing some of the people that helped contribute some interviews and some insight to the book with you, right?
Yeah, because Jenna Jacquet, that who you will be talking to
Yep.
soon. She will be over there with her wife. They have a talk about the video game industry, how they were in there, so like the almost the very beginning, and how it is right now. So I contacted her. She's okay to have a book signing gig with me during the event.
Great.
But I'm still working now on the space for to do that. So I'm not sure yet, but it's like 80% sure.
I like it. I'll take 80% any day. I live in Las Vegas. 80% is a good bet. I'll take it.
Nice.
Now here's the most important question, I think, and the one that everybody should be grabbing their pen and paper to write down. Where can people get their hands on this book, and where can they follow your progress online?
So we have something really, really easy for you guys. It's called colecobook.com.
I like it. What a brilliant idea. So simple. So magnificent.
Yeah, exactly. So,
And what about like Facebook and Twitter? Where can people follow your progress on those sites?
so on Facebook, you just write down Coleco Book in the search bar, and you will have the Facebook page Coleco Book.
Cool.
And same thing on Twitter. And we share like trivias and anecdotes and many other things regularly. So it's the easiest way to reach us. And we're also very vocal on those social networks. So if you reach out, we will just answer you, and in the nick of time. You know, it will be really quick.
There was one image you posted, I think, within the last couple days, and when I saw it, I literally almost spit my drink out, and I don't know why, but it was Ryan Gosling, and he was leaning on a bar, and his arm was up in the air, and he was staring deadpan into the camera.
Yeah.
And you wrote, "Hey girl, why don't you get rid of that Wii U system and get yourself a real console like ColecoVision?" And it was just the expression on his face, right? Like he's got that little smirk, and he's just sitting there ultra cool, like he means business. And for whatever reason, the way it struck me in the moment that I was drinking a cup of hot tea, it got me, man. So I look forward to,
Cool.
to more
So
memes.
my mission is accomplished with this one.
Yeah, your mission accomplished with that one. That was good. I know that this book, it hasn't been out for that long, and you're still touring and promoting it. So this question is probably a little unfair, but you're probably already thinking about this in the background. What are you working on next?
So without telling too much on it, I will still focus on Coleco, and
Ooh.
now maybe telling a little bit more on the really focus even more on the video game part of Coleco, because this is something. So this is something we know of, but not in details. And I'm someone who really likes to go in detail with the things. So
Sure.
So yeah, just detailing the.
I like it. Well, stop right there. You don't have to say any more.
Okay.
Fabulous
Sure,
secret
sure.
projects.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah.
Fabulous secret Coleco projects. Well, I thank you for your time. You are now an official guest. See what I did there?
Yeah.
On the trenches. And I really hope everybody listening does check out Coleco, the official book. Again, colecobook.com. I've read it. I backed it on Kickstarter. I technically have 2 copies now. And if you have podcasts, blogs, or anything like that, reach out to Antoine on colecobook.com or through social media. He'd probably hook you up with a review copy or make sure that you get your hands on it so you can help him spread the word. And hey, if you are in Connecticut, an 80% chance close to being in Portland, make the effort to go out. Antoine's hitting 2 corners of the country, and he was already in Arizona a few weeks back, so we just got to get him in South Florida, and we can call him the 4-corner hero. Say hi to him, get your book signed, and have a good time. Thanks so much, Antoine. I hope this was fun for you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It was really, I really had the blast speaking with you. Like every time I speak with you, it's really cool, and it's also really cool to share, with some other passionate people out there. So I'm really glad.
Cool, man. Well, that's all it for all of us. Everybody else listening, stay tuned to the next episode of The Trenches. Game on.